Hi everyone, hope you're keeping well. And so recently I got to speak to a true heavy metal icon, a man who's an absolute hero of mine. So it was an absolute pleasure. The one and only Mr. KK Downing. We spoke about, his career over the last 50 plus years, including his time in obviously Judas Priest, his new album, Sermons of the Sinner, kind of the KK's Priest banner, his book, Heavy Duty, and everything else that a man has been up to involving a life in heavy metal. So please enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Hopefully KK enjoyed it as well. And you can watch that conversation now. And we're joined by the one and only Mr. KK Downing. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, Lee. Thank you very much on this Metal Sunday morning.
Metal Sunday morning, indeed, buddy.
I've got the inevitable gallon of coffee.
It's vital on a Sunday morning, that, mate.
Yeah, raring to go, raring to go.
So just before Christmas, I finished reading your Heavy Duty book. I got it for your birthday back in November. And man, what a read that was. Like, what made you want to, sort of write your story now, as it were, so compared to, I'm sure you've had ample opportunity across your career to write your story.
I think it's probably, dare I say, an age thing, who knows, but now I've passed the 7-0 threshold. It gets a bit scary, I'm thinking, because you live your life thinking, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that at some point, then suddenly there's a bit of a mad panic on, really, But yeah, I just thought that I wanted to, I just thought it'd be a good idea to leave something behind. But at the same time, so I wanted the fans to get to know me a little bit, really, because obviously people know of me, I mean, all of these wonderful fans of rock and metal that, I've been so familiar with for so many decades, through my life, really, the evolution of everything rock and metal as we know today. I lived it and was a part of it. So I just thought it might just be a little bit of an insight to the fans, just to get to know me a little bit better, and also try to answer a few unanswered questions along the way. And I thought it'd be a cool, the right time to do it, really.
No, fair play, man. I mean, it was a great read. It was one of some, biographies. I mean, I read a lot, so I'm a big reader. So some you read and they're not as honest and open as you'd like. And you, from what I read anyway, it certainly seemed like honest ones.
And the third and last really cool thing about it, I was kind of hoping to give some hope and aspirations to everybody out there that may have been in a similar situation to me, because it was a miracle, really, I should have ended up in the trash can, behind bars or something. It wasn't a good start in life, but if I can do it, anybody can. So you just got to have the will and want to do something and persevere and stick at it. And at the end of the day, you'll wear them down, you'll get there in the end. And of course, the longer you stay in the game, the better and the more experience, and you're going to hone your skills a lot sharper, aren't you, really? And obviously along the way, learn from your mistakes, and also eventually hope to get into partnership with the right people, because like you say, unless you're a solo artist, of course, but then again, you'll still need a partnership with management and
management and band behind you and everything else, so.
Industry and all of that. So until you've got everything in place, it's a tough task, really. So, but that's kind of, I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of hope and just keep driving forward, and you'll get out of the rut that you may be in and break free and come good. And of course, with me, the story in the book is kind of, because I can't say that I'm a religious person. I mean, having a childhood and growing up like I did, I think that's pretty understandable, But when I found music, that became my religion, really, in a way, because it kind of saved me from a lot of things.
Bit of your saving grace, as it were, wasn't it, from what I could read in the book, man? I think
it kind of made I mean, because I stepped into the music business, but it could have been any kind of industry, but what it did was provide me and put me on the right path of a God-fearing person, really. You know, I kind of got a job, because it is a job, you know, and a career, and a wage, you know, and you pay, you contribute towards your taxes and everything. You do everything that you kind of expected to do, you know. And I never thought that was going to be me. I thought I was something weird. I don't know what I was expecting really when I was like a young teenager, but I was expecting, and I suppose I was thinking, I'm not cut out to be this normal 9 to 5 person. But at the end of the day, it's kind of worked out like that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, you certainly had some adventures in your younger days, mate. I love reading the story about you and your mate traveling through Eastern Europe in your young days when you left the job and sleeping in churches and.
Well, like I say, music to start with, you know, it was kind of leading me down this bad path, really, because it was kind of something I wanted and needed, but I didn't really have the money to pay to travel or to buy concert tickets, you know. So you had to do all these like little illegal things, like hiding away in toilets on trains and running from people, and, you know, opening exit doors to get into concerts. So all of that was a bit kind of naughty, really, you know. But at the end of the day, as I said before, you know, whatever it takes to get to where you need to go, you know. But just be very careful along the way.
I think we've all got stories like that.
And if you can't be careful, be quick.
So you mentioned in the book as well that, you know, seeing Hendrix live was sort of your defining moment and such, as a bit of a turning point. Was he the sort of main influence and reason for picking up guitar, or was there others along the way?
Yeah, I think he was the big inspiration, really. Like I say, but everybody around, I think Hendrix and the Cream, obviously, they were the two big ones, you know. But seeing Jimi Hendrix at Coventry Theatre in 1967, it was awe-inspiring, really. It was like incredible, you know. It's like, because he was the one person that looked good, played good, and performed good, you know. He was kind of the whole deal, the whole package. And that always stayed with me, you know.
I bet, man, I bet. You also obviously mentioned in the book that sort of touching on Priest, that it was initially planned for, you know, Priest to retire after the Nostradamus album, and then plans change for the rest of the guys. Obviously, you took a break from music. Were you last year releasing Sermons of Sinner? Were you always going to come back to music at some point, or had you had enough of it at that point?
Well, I don't know. It kind of all went. We were planning to obviously finish the band with the farewell tour in 2000. We were planning that in depth, you know, and we got there even to the point of choosing the title for the farewell tour, like the Epitaph tour, you know. So and we had all the press releases set to go, and but I just decided at 11th hour that things still weren't quite right, and I opted out to do the farewell tour. But I fully expected that would still be the farewell tour, and, you know, I didn't realise the guys would carry on for another 10 years. Otherwise, things might have been a bit different, you know. But I just didn't feel good at the time. I just didn't feel as though I would enjoy that tour for certain reasons.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to end my career doing a tour that I really felt that I wasn't going to enjoy, because it was tough for me the previous couple of tours, you know, and so I just wanted my voice to be heard and to get things right, and you know, so I went, I'm not doing the farewell tour, you know. So I thought that the guys would find a stand-in to do that, and which they did, but they decided to carry on. But I always fully expected at some point that there would be an opportunity for me to step back in, but the decision was that they didn't want that to happen. So I did my book, and then I did some gigs, obviously, with Ripper, Ross the Boss, and I thought, well, you know, if it's not to be, I'm going to have to carry on, because I just thought that I just felt like doing an album, really, and getting, you know, doing something that probably that I had a bit more control over, you know. And so kind of that's what's happened. And so I'm really happy now. I'm really happy with the album, Sermons of the Sinner, and there'll be another one hopefully this year.
Oh, brilliant.
why not?
Yeah, man.
So that's especially with what's going on. Obviously, we're still looking at tour dates, but it's, you know, the world is like a mess at the moment, isn't it? You know, but there's quite a safe haven here. You know, my house got a studio set up, so why not? I can continue to make some music, and for when everything comes right, and then we can be out there full on, you know, all guns blazing, so to speak.
That's great, man. I mean, I was at the Bloodstock Festival when you came on with Ross the Boss.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Me and my mates stood there and enjoying Ross the Boss, and we knew you were, you know, being announced you were making an appearance. So, with the previous time that I saw you play would have been the Priest Feast thing that you did with Testament and Megadeth tour. We're going to the London show of that. So that was the last time I'd seen you before then. So, you know, we were excited for you to come to the stage, and it was great to see you up there again, man. And we all stood there going, I hope KK does another album. I hope something comes.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, here in terms of the cinema, and I mean, I got that for Christmas, and it's a great record, man. It's exactly what everyone wants from you.
Thank you very much, mate. I'm glad you like it. And yeah, the Ross the Boss thing, that just came about because I was meant to receive an award at Bloodstock. Oh. And they said, would you come on the stage and receive the award, you know? And I says, oh, okay, because it's not too far away from where I live. And then somebody says, well, if you're going to get on stage, do you think you could play a couple of songs? And I'm going, well, I'm not Ed Sheeran. I can't stand up there on my ukulele and knock a couple of songs out, you know. And I said, well, and then somebody suggested, you know, I just jump on and play some songs with Ross the Boss. And but anyway, I'm thinking this is all a bit strange and a bit weird, but why not? Because they're just a one. Obviously, Ross is the only guitar player, so I thought, oh, that could work, you know. And I'm really glad in the end. I mean, we only had a couple of hours of rehearsals the day before and stuff like that, you know. But the guys knew what songs we were playing, and the guys played fantastic. They really pushed the boat out, you know. And I was really, really proud of them, to be honest, you know. I mean, because it went pretty good, you know, considering it was kind of a bit of a throw together, you know. But that was quite enjoyable. And then Dave Ellefson contacted me and said, I'm coming to England, I'm playing. I said, you see, I'm the ambassador for a venue, a large venue in Wolverhampton called KK Steel Mill. So, and that's very cool. Thunder have just done 2 sold-out shows there, Christmas, and, you know, it's really, really good. It's a great venue. So the Dave Ellefson band was coming to play there, and I said, can you come on stage and play a couple of songs with us? But that just snowballed and went from one thing to the other. We ended up doing a set about an hour long. Brilliant. And a mutual friend says, oh, we'll fly Ripper in to come and play. Well, I thought, if you're going to do that, I'll give Les a ring, you know, and just get together, you know. And but anyway, that was a lot of fun. You know, it was a bit of a throw together, you know, but again, you know, I'm glad to say, true professionals, we pulled it together after, you know.
Yeah, I had some friends who were there, and they said it just sounded amazing.
Yeah, the guys flew in the day before. We had one run through, you know, upstairs at the steel mill, and the day before it was all crazy, but that's the exciting part about it, you know, the adrenaline rush. But it was just great to get on there, you know, with some professional guys, and especially like obviously with playing again with Ripper, you know, and it was all a bit, you know, squeaky bum. I mean, Ripper said, "Oh, my throat's stripped." I said, "No, you'll be okay," you know. But he's
that's a man who needs his throat when he's singing as well.
But he's such a powerhouse. He's so strong, you know. So it was really enjoyable.
So you mentioned obviously Les Binks there, like come in and play with that gig. Was there? I might have misread it at the time, but was Les supposed to be involved in KK's Priest?
Absolutely, yeah, because that was kind of the deal, really. I mean, you know, having former members, Priest members, in KK's Priest was, you know, was the idea, really. And you know, for me, it's all about nostalgia and heritage, and I just thought that would be a nice thing to do, you know, because, you know, you know, to really, capture that kind of the sound, and everything around it, But that's what I'll always do, And I think that's inevitable, really, just like on the new album.
Yeah. I think if you came out with a folk album, people would be disappointed, mate. So.
Yeah. So obviously my guitar sound, my style, everything I do, the way I play, the way I write, everything about it, it's bound to resemble everything I've ever done in the past.
Of course.
But with a new take on it. So I'm excited really to keep that going because, I mean, actually, I've seen some guys playing Judas Priest songs just yesterday. Someone sent me a couple of bands, one from Canada. I don't know where the other one's from, and they were playing The Rage and Ram It Down, two different bands. But boy, their sounds and their performance sounds very, very authentic,
No.
And I'm thinking it's really quite something special, and something that needs to continue.
Definitely, man. Well, tribute bands and all that. Absolutely, how Ripper came into the fold initially.
Yeah. And so, because now we have these guys, and they're really putting a lot of time and energy into capturing that authentic Judas Priest sound, with me and Glenn, the traditional lineup and stuff like that. They're trying so hard to do that, and when they do it, it's just very unique. It sounds really quite special, And so when I see that and I hear that, and these guys are getting the solos down note for note and every detail, I'm thinking, I'm still here. I can still do that. So that is going to live on in these wonderful bands and KK's Priest.
That's great, man. So when it came to doing KK's Priest, was it always a case of, after that gig, you wanted Ripper back to be working with Ripper again, no question?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, Les couldn't make the journey because, he was suffering an injury. But I say Les is, we're the same age, so I fully understand, repetitive strain, even as a guitar player, you get it kind of wrists and elbows. If you see Michael Schenker now, he's got support on his elbows. It gets to us, so we have to be a little bit careful. But, we're kind of lucky, really, because we can twiddle our fingers and wrists. But a drummer, it's every joint, really, isn't it? So, yeah, but obviously the album's very high energy. And obviously to put Les in the studio for 6, 7, 8 hours a day playing, it's very rigorous, and so I think that it was probably the best thing to do. Because Les can still play, he's got his own little band, which is great, and so not to spoil that, you know what I mean? Because once you
pick up the injury and exacerbate it, it's hard to get back to, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, say, a lot of people, you can still walk. You maybe have a bad knee, but you're not ready. You got to be careful not to do something that means you're going to have an operation. If you could just keep going, then it's probably a better situation than to have to stop doing everything. No,
well. You say you've captured that sort of classic Priest sound on the album for sure. Like I say, I got the album for Christmas, and so I've been soaking up the last couple of weeks. Yesterday, went and do shopping and all that. My wife was in the car with me, and she went, "I've not heard this Priest record before." And I went, "No, that's the KK's Priest album that your sister got us." And she's like, "I thought I was listening to Priest." I was like, "You sort of are."
Yeah. So, yeah, I love it in the car. I'm still very much a CD person. I'm a CD, got to have a CD player in the car, MP3s are great, but I still don't capture the sound, of the WAV files that you actually recorded from the studio. Very convenient, but to me, the CD is like, it's just got that extra space.
Yeah, it's got that extra space in it. It doesn't seem as compressed.
Yeah,
but no, man. So that's one of the things I was going to ask you. Though, you guys have got plans for a follow up yet? But you said you're hoping to work on a follow up to the album.
Yeah, I'm on it now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm doing it because yeah, I mean, especially through the winter months, I mean, actually today it's bright sunshine. It's not too bad. Could you maybe go out for a walk or ride on a bike or do something, because you can get the hamster wheel syndrome, can't you?
Oh, you
Really,
can. Yeah.
cabin fever, especially after 2 years of these
Oh,
lockdowns
Jesus,
and
yeah.
stuff now. But with the weather the way that it is, it is pretty much down to getting out there and having a walk around. I
Yeah.
like to play golf and tennis, but it's just not the weather, if it's raining and stuff. But at least if
Ah,
it's raining, you can still get out and, get some exercise.
something, yeah. Like you say, no one wants to get stuck indoors after the last 2 years. It was bad enough. So,
Yeah.
yeah. That was the only good thing that came out of lockdown, actually, since we're stuck indoors as such. I said before, I'm involved with sort of promoting the rising side of things on bands and organising my own festival, which doing that in my spare time as the radio show takes up a lot of it. So my bass guitar was getting a little more dusty than I would have liked it to have gotten. But being stuck around, it was like, right, I've got the purpose opportunity to snap the rust off my fingers and get back to it a bit. So that's been good today.
Yeah, yeah. I guess us musicians, we kind of probably, I mean, it's a hard bullet to bite, to release an album, not to be able to tour with it and stuff like that. But at least we can hone our skills, we can practice, we can enjoy playing, we can put songs together, we can do some recording. So we are probably better off than most people, because we can do, it's an indoor situation, isn't it, really, all of that work.
So what was the writing process like on the album? Was it yourself who just wrote the bulk of it, or?
Yeah, yeah, I just shut myself away on, that Christmas, really, after I did the gig in November. That Christmas, that was 2019, I guess. So that Christmas, I just decided to shut myself away and see if I could put an album together. And once I started, it just accelerated a lot quicker than I anticipated.
That's good.
And I was on my own, because I wanted to put the horse before the cart, really. I wanted to know that we got some strong songs and stuff that I liked, and then I was able to give the guys a call and say, shall we put a band together? As opposed to putting the band together and say, okay, right, who's going to write? What we're going to write? What's it going to sound like? And so I found it pretty easy to do, and I enjoyed it that much. I really got stuck into, every aspect of it, really. So I was recording it, and I wanted to see what it would sound like. So I was kind of singing along, putting some melody lines together, and just to know that all of the music worked and everything.
Yeah, worked out, yeah.
And yeah, it was quite enjoyable to do, really. I mean, we could have got the album out in just a few months, to be honest, but obviously COVID hit, we got locked down, so I thought, take the foot off the gas, and I had the luxury of just continuing to play with it and massage it and just get it exactly sounding the way that I wanted it to sound, really.
Yeah, because you had that time and that gap. Do you think those little tweaks have sort of, sprung up a level from what it might have done?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it's down to your own self-satisfaction, because you can kind of overproduce an album, and so that was the last thing I wanted to do. But it probably did cause certain song structures to actually expand rather than diminish,
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I'd like to put, I was thinking, it doesn't matter if the song's 8 or 9 minutes long, as long as it keeps moving and it's going somewhere.
Definitely, yeah.
To me, that's kind of interesting, but it's got to keep.
Yeah, it's got to keep going somewhere. Yeah, if you're just doing the same same thing. You can't really do an 8-9 minute song with one riff sort of thing, can you?
No, if it keeps going round, or if it's, because I'm very, very keen on the razor blades, I like to, condense everything so it keeps my attention,
No, that's great. One thing I thought, I mean, probably just because I haven't heard too much from him in recent years, Ripper's voice on this man is strong as hell. Like, I've not sat down and listened to a full album with Ripper singing for quite a few years, probably since maybe 2009, 2010, last solo album of his I properly listened to. And his voice on this is absolutely storming.
Yeah, I like to hear, and I guess I always wanted to hear Ripper sing songs like this, really, because when Ripper stepped in and saved us back in the 90s, and we did a couple of albums, I think myself and Glenn were thinking, well, we have to be a little bit careful, because we don't want people to just think that, Ripper's a clone of Rob, or trying to be, he needs to have his own identity. So we thought that we could put a different take on the music,
It's a slightly more sort of industrial thing with Ripper.
Ripper was younger, and we felt that to give what we did with a new entity, Ripper, its own identity, and we did that.
Yeah, definitely.
We did that. But I suppose it was always in my mind, what if we'd have produced songs like the songs on Sermons of the Sinner for Ripper to sing, what would that be like? And now we can hear what that's like,
Yeah, man. I mean, you mentioned, going back to the book, that when you guys did the Judas is Rising and Angel of Retribution album, that that was a good moment to come back to. I mean, I think that's personally one of my, probably because when Rob came back in 2005, I was 16, 17. So although I've been brought up on new music from my dad, it was the first album with Rob on that was sort of my era, if you like. And you mentioned on there that, you were going back to that 70s sound. And I found out there was a similar sound on this KK's Priest album. Was that the sort of thing you were going for, a more classic sound with it?
Yeah, well, what happened was, I just, I sat down and I'm thinking there's only one way to approach this, and this is just to go on autopilot, not overthink it, just do what I would normally do, that's a part of everything. And if it comes out and starts to sound like Stained Class or even Rock-a-Roller, or Painkiller, or whatever it sounds like, so be it. It's just me. I'm not going to focus on any part of my, the past or anything like that, because I'm actually creating for the present and the future.
Of course.
But inevitably, there's going to be a synergy, an automatic, because
that further step up from your career, isn't it?
Because I can't change the way that I do things, so it's good, and I like that,
Yeah, of course.
And I like that, I mean, you can imagine if we went to wonderful player, and I'm a big fan of Michael Schenker. Can you imagine if we went to see a Michael Schenker concert and he plugged his guitar in it and it sounded like someone else?
Yeah, you wouldn't want it.
You wouldn't want it, would you? You go, no, that's not his sound. I mean, we know how what constitutes Michael's sound and everything on those wonderful songs. So we want to hear that sound. We're on new songs as well. We don't want it to change,
Nah. You mentioned earlier about KK Steelmill, and one thing I want to ask you, because I said when we were talking off air, I sort of host my own festival, and we've had quite a few bands on my bill that have played KK's Steelmill, like the likes of Those Damn Crows and Massive Wagons and bands like that. And they've all, when we've been speaking, when I've had Crows headline last year now, it was only a few weeks after that they played KK Steelmill, and we were chatting about tour and everything else that they've been on. Like, well, we were waiting for the guys to sort of set up and all that for the rest of them. And they were full of nothing but positive words for it, man, with the quality of the venue, how well they were treated and everything else. It's definitely becoming, both from friends of mine have been the venue. I need to get up there myself because it's a little way away, but I've not managed to get a gig to yet. But from friends of mine who've attended this venue and bands I know have played, it's becoming a definite marker of a venue you need to play, sort of thing, and need to go to.
Yeah, it's such a shame, really, because I mean, the venue opened up, what, 3 years ago now? I mean, the first band was Skid Row.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, this was just pre-COVID. And everything was going great, you know, for a new venue, because you have to get your foot in the door, you know, with booking agents and stuff like that. So it was gaining momentum, and then just the COVID has been a massive knockback, as you can imagine, you know, for a new venue. But, you know, I mean, it definitely, because it's a big venue, you know, I mean, it can hold 3,500, you know, I mean,
Nice.
So it's a big venue. And like I say, Thunder just did 2 shows there, which was great, you know, but you know, we still had some no-shows actually on the night, you know, people, because of the COVID thing.
Yeah.
So it's still having an effect, you know, because the last thing people want to do is take the family to see a show and you get COVID over Christmas and the New Year, you know, and because you know you're going to be doing a lot of visiting and stuff like that. So all of these effects, but we've just got to get rid of all of this now, and it's just got to disappear, you know.
Get the live scene back, because
It's so weird, because I've just had a cold for the last week and I'm fine today. I felt much better yesterday, but to be honest, I haven't felt too bad. Felt on my chest a little bit and a bit of a woolly head.
Yeah.
I was thinking, is this what everybody's having with this? Like, you know what I mean? Because I did 2 COVID tests here. I've got the testing gear, and it's not COVID. I'm thinking, if this is what everybody's been having, you know, it's nothing, is it really? You know, and you know, so, but it'll all work out in the end.
Yeah,
you
of course
know.
it will. Of course it will. So going back to the album, they obviously normally you've sort of embraced sort of new technologies throughout your career, like using the synthesizer guitars, you know, when they're very much in their sort of preliminary sort of stages. Is there any sort of things technology-wise that you're looking to bring into in the future, or anything you'd want to try out and stuff? Or
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a need to, really, Lee. Now I'm quite happy now, because, you know, I think that the band quite quickly does have a character, an identity, you know, both visually and with the album, you know, the concept, the way that it is, it's, you know, it's KK's Priest, and that's prevalent in the artwork, you know, in the songs, you know, and it's where I started back in 68, 69, you know, as a young teenager, desperate to be in, you know, Judas Priest, and I felt that we went away from that, you know, through the decades, through the journey. There's times when we kind of deserted that, what the original concept and what the band really was about, you know, and what the intentions of the band was. Yeah. And for me, like I say, I mean, I tell the story back in the 60s, there wasn't a music for people like me. You know, we were desperate for a style of music, because we didn't like pop, we didn't like jazz, we didn't like classical, we didn't like all of these music. We liked blues, but you know, it didn't quite fit the bill. No. And that's why all the bands and the musicians in England all liked the blues, but it wasn't quite right. So progressive blues was born.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So Cream were a progressive blues band, because they would do a standard like Crossroads with a 10-minute guitar solo in the middle. This is progressive blues, you know. And then you got the great Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green. Great progressive blues band, writing progressive blues songs like Albatross, like Oh Well, you know, like the Green Manalishi. This is a progressive blues band, and that's what they were, you know. So, but they were all progressive blues. Whether it was Jethro Tull, Bloodwind Pig, 10 Years After, Free Taste, progressive blues bands, because there was a need to move on, you know, and create something for us, working class, you know.
Bring your own sort of slant on everything that you guys for
yeah. And I loved all of that, mate. You know, I mean, and I travelled everywhere enjoying these bands, you know, but it still didn't fit the bill because I still felt confident there was a music out there that hadn't come to fruition. And so I started to write what I thought was that style of music.
Yeah.
So originally, when I first sat down with Alan Atkins, the vocalist, in '69, and writing songs that became Victim of Changes, and you know, and Caviar and Mess, and all of these songs, you know, and Winter, and Never Satisfied, and all of these songs, you know, they were kind of the embryo of the evolution that would become metal, because that didn't exist at the time. But in my ears, it did, because I heard it in Jimi Hendrix and bands like Kinks and, you know, the Troggs maybe a little bit. I could hear snippets of it.
Yeah, those elements starting to come together.
Elements of it, yeah. So, and then it was a great revolution in 1977 when Led Zeppelin, oh, they're a rock band, because we didn't even have rock at the time.
Yeah.
We had rock and roll.
But not rock.
We didn't have rock. But so we became rock, and then people started to call. Suddenly, we were not a progressive blues band anymore. We were a rock band, you know. And then we were a heavy rock band, we were a hard rock band, and eventually we got labelled a heavy metal band. So we got there in the end, and I'm glad to have been a part of that, you know.
It must be nice, because there's obviously, throughout your career, obviously with Priest, you know, there's bands for generations across the globe that will always cite Priest as a massive influence on their sound for the last 40, 50 years now. It's got to be like really cool to see a lot of like younger bands. I know bands that are coming up now who adore you, and you know, everything that was done with Priest. That's probably pretty cool, man.
Yeah, well, we did break a lot of ground, didn't we? As I said before, you know, I mean, because I first discovered, I do tell the story, in 1965, the Kinks, you really got me, because I didn't like any of the pop band. Why did I like that song? You know, and this is a story I tell. I liked that song. And why did I like it? Because the simple fact is it was riff orientated. You know, and so was, you know, songs like Purple Haze and, you know, Foxy Lady and stuff like that. More riff orientated songs, you know. Which wasn't around at the time, you know. And then later on, I saw Van Halen support Black Sabbath at Birmingham Odeon, and they came on and played You Really Got Me. And I'm thinking, there you go. It's 1978 now. In 1965, this is why I saw this, and this is why I like this song, because it's a heavy metal song. Here we are, you know, as a heavy metal concert, you know. So that was kind of what got into me, you know, and I stuck with it, you know, through thick and thin. And it was a great day when I first heard the first Black Sabbath album. Not exactly 100% what I had in mind.
No.
But it was great to hear these riff-orientated songs. And I'm thinking, yes, because if that's what we were doing, you know. Although the Sabbath guys got the jump on us by a year or two, you know, with their album. We couldn't get signed. We were still struggling to get signed. People didn't know what the hell we were playing, you know. Mate, we didn't really know what we were, you know, to me, the idea was to be different and unique and play stuff that basically was music for the minorities, which, you know, blues music was.
It was, definitely,
was for the minorities, you know, wasn't in the pop charts for decades and decades, but it was a great form of music that really helped people in life, you know.
Yeah, man. So do you remember, like, when the moment was when you were, you know, writing with Priest in the early days, where you thought, this is it, this is what I've had in my head, this is what I want to hear? Do you remember what song it was you were writing, or anything in a particular moment? Or?
Yeah, well, like I say, I was really happy because we were just a four-piece for, you know, quite a long time, really, you know, and that probably, that particular period, you know, kind of set the precedent, I think, you know, for everything that I thought, you know, was in my mind as best as I could do it, really. You know, the goal was to be heavy, whatever that meant, you know. And what it really meant was to be emotional with attitude and to be different to what other people were doing, because what other people were doing had a different target audience.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, so kind of that's what it was about. And then as time went on, you know, the idea came about. We managed to get a record deal, but they said, look, you know, there's too many bands with the same lineup, you know, Free, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, whatever. Well, you guys, what about you guys having a saxophone player? And I'm going, no way. No, you can keep your record deal. Oh, keyboard player? No, sorry. You know, and then so I sat and thought about it. I thought, how can we get a record deal and appease these guys? And I'm thinking, maybe a second guitar player.
Yeah.
And I really thought that was a good idea, you know, for lots of reasons. You know, it would fill out the sound when I'm doing a solo. And I'm thinking, if we can get another guitar player that can write, and he's a lead guitar player as well, we'll be two lead guitar players, two strong songwriters. You know, it will fortify the band. And musically, we can venture into worlds that people haven't gone into yet. You know, I had this crazy idea. We can create heavy harmonies. And we did have a go at that, you know, because usually harmonies, because at the time, you know, you heard bands like the Allman Brothers and the James Gang and, you know, and the Great Wishbone Ash. And I wasn't a great fan because they kind of sounded a bit too light, you know. So the idea was to, because that's what harmonies do. When you start to build harmonies, they start to sound like chord structures, which they inevitably will, because that's what harmonizing with one note will build a chord, you know. So I'm thinking, oh, we'll create, and we ventured out, and eventually did. So, you know, there is such a thing as diminished harmonies. You know, you can stack minor thirds together, fine. You know, it will sound not too pleasing to a lot of people, but to me, it sounded great. You know, if it was, you know, dissonant, you know, and so, you know, but we got together, and obviously Glenn was a different, you know, musically, what Glenn and myself brought together maybe didn't always agree, but I had a great appreciation, I think Glenn did as well, is the fact that a band, it's a combination of people.
Definitely, it's a combination of everyone's influences, isn't it? So.
And so some of the more melodic stuff and more, slightly more commercial stuff, you know, that Glenn would come. I was in acceptance of that, because I'm thinking that if we want to really be successful with our music, you know, then we really do need to broaden our horizons. Yeah. And obviously it worked, the combination worked incredibly well.
So with the, obviously, you know, that twin guitar sound was synonymous with Priest. It became a part of your signature sound. It obviously is now fueled back into KK's Priest. Would you have had it any other way in KK's? Would you have ever done it just on your own, or do you think now it's,
you know, I never thought
that sound?
Other people have said that. A few other people said, why didn't I consider just doing the band with me as a guitar? And I'm thinking, I never thought of that. It never entered my head. No. I don't know why. It's just maybe it's just that I automatically could hear these trade-off solos and you know, these harmonies and all of these things, you know, that required two guitar players. So I've been so accustomed.
Well, yeah, it's how you've written all most of your career. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, it never crossed my mind to do
No.
it on my own, you know. But when I think about it, yes, I could have.
Yeah.
And, and I'm thinking, you know, but I'm really happy with this because, you know, the twin axe attack is just something that is so good live, you
No,
know.
it is. You get that bit of force, you get that real hit in the gut.
Yeah, and I like another guitar player I can interact with because myself and Glenn were great with in live performances. You know, in our heydays, you know, we were very kind of, you know, our whole idea and concept was, you know, the whole band. You know, I mean, there wasn't a weakness when it came to our live performances. You know, when we were on point, it was very good because Rob was he's such an incredible frontman.
God, yeah.
But to have the support of two guitar players interacting and doing everything that you know you possibly can
Yeah.
Was very strong. So we were never afraid to go on before anybody, you know. And we supported a lot of great bands in our time, you know, Led Zeppelin, you know, Kiss, the mighty AC/DC, but whoever it was, we were still very proud because we felt obviously we had a uniqueness. We had our own sound, our own style, and our own entities and personalities. And that's what younger bands need to take all of that on board
Definitely.
because you're going to need it.
Are there any younger bands that you hear these days that do float your boat that grab hold of you, or is it sticking to your influences from your own teenage years as such?
No, I'm terrible really because I mean I always get very busy engulfed in what I'm doing and the band are doing. But other than that, when I do get a chance, um, you know, I tend to listen to the past
Yeah.
because I often say to younger bands and artists, you know, the future is in the past, so you need to look to the past for the future, you know, because there's so much there, isn't there?
Oh
You
God.
know,
Yeah.
there's so much there to tap into, you know, and the audience there that likes that, the elements of that.
Yeah. It's already converted, isn't it?
Yeah, so you can still move forward and create something unique, you know, but you don't have to try to invent the wheel,
No.
something completely new. You know, you just need to kind of put a new lick of paint or do something with what already exists, you know, and become. And there are bands that do that, aren't there?
Oh God, yeah. There's a lot of great
You
bands.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I am aware of bands like Greta Van Fleet and Airborne, you
Yeah.
know, and if I say the names of those two bands, you automatically know who I'm relating to,
Yeah.
you know, and
Oh,
if you don't, you know, you're gonna know that I'm relating to Led Zeppelin and AC/DC,
definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
you know. But these two younger bands have created a niche for themselves, you know, in a very fine way with new music, and we need that to continue because us dinosaurs, we are going to fall off the edge of the planet at some point, you know. And unfortunately, like I say, you know, we are losing a lot of good friends, you know, each year along the way because nothing lasts forever and nobody lives forever. So at some point, we're going to need these new entities to take up the mantle and keep things going.
Definitely, man. So, what does the rest of the year look like for you, mate? What you got planned up?
Yeah, well, I'm perfectly happy, you know, putting the next album together,
Yeah.
you know, and that can come together, you know, to fruition
Yeah.
quite readily and easily. Um, and then, but it would be great to think that we could. I know there's a lot, whatever slots are, you know, still need filling because lots of bands have had to postpone
Yeah.
their tours and stuff for the last couple of years, and still bands are postponing their gigs.
Yeah. There's still going on, isn't there? Yeah.
you know, because of the COVID thing, the uncertainty, you know. But other bands are still getting out there. And Ross the Boss has just announced, I think, 40 dates in Europe this year,
Was
you
it?
know, which is fantastic, yeah.
That's great.
You know, and hopefully that will materialize, which
Yeah,
is
that's,
great. So other bands are really pushing forward optimistically. That's good, you know.
yeah, definitely. Well, I hope some live dates do happen, mate, because like I say, this album's storming, and I'd love to see it live.
Well, actually, we're all chomping at the bit. We're all ready to go. We want to come out and play the album and perform for everybody live. And that day will come, and I can promise everybody that yeah, you certainly are not going to be disappointed with KK's Priest when you see us live out there. You know, we're just we're out there, and the fans and the audiences were in my mind all the time during the writing process. You know, because obviously it might not be totally obvious throughout the album, but there's a hell of a lot of of sections. You know, there are.
There's some proper gang vocals that you could chant along to.
Yeah, I can hear the audience, you know, and you know, so we're going to extend some of those pieces, some parts, you know, and I can just hear the audiences joining in, singing a lot of that stuff, you know, and belching it out with us. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's great, man. Well, KK, thanks for your time, dude. It's been amazing to talk to you.
Thank you, mate. And very, very best of luck with all of your endeavours and the great work that you do. Obviously, you know, with a very worthy cause, and you know, all the very best for the station, and a big thanks from me and all the metal fans for giving us the opportunity to present myself and the band, you know, on your radio station, and please say hi to everybody else involved at the station, and the very, very best of luck with everything that you do.
Thanks, man. Just one more thing before you go, dude. At the beginning of the interview, I'm going to play out Raise Your Fists because it's probably my favourite off the album. But what song off the album would you like us to play at the end of the interview?
Well, I'm perfectly happy, Lee, for you to take the choice, because you know the time slot, you know, whatever suits you really. And you know the album really well, and you probably know your fans really well. So, but I'm happy to play anything at all, really, to be honest.
Right, if we're not going with Raise Your Fist, I wrote that as my choice. How about we go with Brothers of the Road?
Yeah, cool.
Or I'll tell you what, I'll let you pick Brothers of the Road or Metal Through and Through. What would you go with?
I'm thinking, well, I'm bound to be greedy and choose Metal Through and Through because it's a bit more airtime, but I like the song anyway, and it's exactly what we were talking about you know, audience, because that song specifically relates to the fold of metal, and it's loud and proud, and it's, you know, about the journey and how we came together and how we'll always stay together.
I'll tell you what, let's go with Metal Through and Through then, mate. Let's do it.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, time again, KK, man.
Okay, buddy. Well, have a great rest of the day, Lee, and hopefully we'll catch you up at the Steel Mill.
Yeah, man, it'd be great. Yeah, we'll have to do it.
You've got my email. If there's a show you want, come up. I'll meet you up there. And
oh, that'd be great, man. Nice one.
Yeah, cool.
All right, cheers, bud.
There's lots of journalists there. You know, there's going to be there. You know, people come to the Steel Mill when there's a show. You know, there's quite a few guys there for Shankar and Doro, who are hooked up with people you might know.
Yeah, probably.
You might know in the industry. Yeah, it's a good hangout. We usually meet you up at the either the Holiday Inn or the because there's some hotels on the doorstep, or the Novotel. We usually meet in the bar about 4 o'clock, because that's where I met Doro. You know, and you know, there's some photographs flying around. It's a big kind of meet-up before the show, do you know what I mean?
Oh, that sounds good, man.
Yeah. So we have a few beers and a chinwag, and I inevitably get caught up doing a couple of interviews at the hotel, you know. But not to say that that's going to happen. Yeah. So Well, you know, obviously you probably know Steve from Metal Talk. You probably know Danny, you know, from Stokes Media. You probably know a bunch of other people.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
a good way to see people in it.
Danny's got his radio spot. He played a couple of songs yesterday. Danny's from North Wales. Comes down. You know, he was down for British Lion as well. So
Brilliant.
So just let us know if you fancy a show.
I will, man. That'd be great.
You know, sadly a couple of bands have postponed. Trick have put their date back.
Oh yeah.
Avatar have put their date back. You know, all because of the COVID thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of it going on at the minute, isn't there?
I'm hoping that Ingve is still going to play because I'll probably be up there for then and a couple of other shows. We'll see what if you keep your eye on the Steel Mill and see what's happening.
I'll keep an eye out, man, and I'll drop you a line
for updates. Okay, mate.
Oh, nice one.
Lovely speaking to you.
And you too, KK. Cheers, pal.
Okay, thank you for everything. Take care, mate.
You too, mate. Take care.
Bye for now, mate.
Bye.